In this video, I'm going to show you how to take a regular thesis statement and build from that what we call an extended thesis. It kind of expands your thesis statement out into a full-blown intro paragraph, but it also makes it a little bit stronger because you add a little bit more information to it, and typically helps you to score a little bit better on a DBQ or during the AP exam on one of your essays. So the extended thesis. So what I've got here, just so you know, I've got the original prompt, analyze the influence of the scientific revolution on the development of the modern era. We've come up with our three different main ways in which the scientific revolution influenced the modern era, explaining the natural world, spurred Enlightenment thought, question the role of God and church. What I've also got here is the thesis statement that we built before that incorporated these three ideas or main ideas into our thesis. And if you notice, this is one sentence, and this is just a general thesis statement, but it ties it back to the prompt, and it talks about or touches on the three main categories that we'll talk about in our body paragraphs. Okay? Now, the extended thesis isn't much different, but what you do instead of making just one sentence, you take each one of these individual items and you blow them into full-blown statements. Okay? But to begin, it typically is a good idea to start with kind of an overarching statement that ties directly back to the prompt. So that way I'm letting the reader know that I've understood the prompt and I'm going to be speaking directly to what it's asked me to speak to. So an overarching statement might look something like this. The scientific revolution had a great impact on the modern era. Okay, I haven't really said a whole lot here, right? But it ties back to the scientific revolution, the development of the modern era, and the influence or impact that it had on that. Okay, and so that's what I'm tying it into. So I've got kind of that overarching statement. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to drop down to the next line. Normally I would write in paragraph form. I'm just going to drop it down so you can see the difference, and then we'll kind of piece it back together into an actual paragraph for you. But then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the explaining the natural world topic, and I've written a whole body paragraph on this thing, but if you notice in the thesis statement here, scientific revolution influenced the modern era by explaining the natural world. I've just made a very, very brief general statement on that. So what I want to do is I kind of want to extrude that out and make a little bit more of a formalized statement around that. Maybe something like this, because I have some extra information that I want to include with that. Early researchers maybe developed science as a way to explain the natural world around them. Okay, and so I've basically said the same thing, explaining the natural world, but they developed science as a way, so I've kind of added an extra piece in there, a little bit more explanation, so it's a little bit more thorough of a statement than just explaining the natural world. I'm going to do then the same thing for spurred Enlightenment thought. Once again, I'm going to kind of add to that a little bit. Let me scroll here for you, but I'm going to add a little bit to that as well. So I might have a statement here, instead of just spurred Enlightenment thought, I probably have something like, these new advances in reason and logic, because I know that was the important thing that these guys were using, reason and logic, led to Enlightenment thinkers who thought about government and basic human rights. So what I've done, instead of spurred Enlightenment thought, I've kind of explained that a little bit. They took reason and logic and they use that to go beyond just science and to apply reason and logic to things like government, things like basic human rights, and start thinking about those things. And that really was what encapsulated the Enlightenment movement. So I've got a bigger statement there. My next one, take my third sub-thesis here, question the role of God in the church. Once again, blow that into a longer statement here with a little more detail. With these new discoveries, people began to, let's say, question the role, let's say, God played as they attempted to make sense of it all. Okay, so once again, not a whole lot more, but I'm explaining a little bit about questioning the role of God in church. They used these new discoveries, these new ideas. They began to question the role God played as they attempted to make sense of these new ideas and kind of piece them together with the role God was going to play. So it's a little bit more involved of a statement. Okay, so really what I'm going to do then, I broke them down into individual lines, but really I should be writing this into more of a paragraph form. So I'm just going to go back. I'm going to take the spaces out of here, okay, and just bring it back up. Okay, so now really I'm writing it in paragraph form, and I need one last sentence here because I really should transition into the body of my paragraph, kind of wrap up these statements so I can move on. Okay, and so it's a nice way to kind of conclude it. So maybe a conclusion slash transition statement, something like this. This marked the beginning of not just a new way of thinking, but a whole new era. Okay, and so talking about the new way of thinking and how that was important, but it also leads us into the new modern era. Once again, kind of tying it back into my prompt. So now what I've done is I've got an entire intro paragraph. I don't have to worry about the hook and some background information and then kind of drop in at the end my thesis statement, which I could do, but this is providing extra explanation around each one of these topics, which makes it a little bit stronger. And it also serves as my intro paragraph, which makes it easy. We call it an extended thesis, but really it's an intro paragraph where I've expanded on those ideas or extended those ideas a little bit, and that's kind of what we want to do.